it's important now to realize the reality, which is everything is dependent on causes and multiplicity of causes and conditions. Anything that is impermanent is dependent on not only causes and conditions, but dependent on multiplicity of causes and conditions. And if you understand this, it will widen your attitude, your way of thinking. For example, when you get a problem, normally when you get a problem, you will normally criticize just one cause, one condition. This is because of him. One cause. Him, he is the source of the problem. But he might have played a big role, but it is not fair to say that he is the one only who is responsible for this tragedy. There are many things, many causes and conditions dependent. Why he is creating that problem? He may be dependent on something else. He may be unhappy, a broken family, whatever, you see. Then in your case also, why he is angry with you and not with others, So many things you can talk about. So once you see that each and every individual event is dependent on multiplicity of causes and conditions, then you will not just talk about just one thing responsible and eliminating that one cause and condition. You will talk about multiplicity of causes and conditions, and you will think about how to solve this by taking care of all these causes and conditions. Like the world problem that we have today is not because of one cause alone. It's dependent on so many things. So with this more wider perspective, we'll be able to solve the problem in a holistic way. So therefore, this concept of interdependent origination is extremely, extremely important. It's scientific. Einstein talked about theory of relativity. But even Einstein, when he talks about theory of relativity, he's talking only on the level of the material phenomena, because he is a physicist. Physicist means physical reality. Not talking much about the subjective mental level. But in Buddhism, when we talk about interdependent origination, we are talking about everything that is conceivable, everything that is existent. Clear? So the two things that you need to cultivate in your mind is bodhicitta and wisdom, understanding emptiness. Which means if you don't understand the full thing right now, at least what we are saying is the two things that you need to cultivate in your mind is good mind, good heart, and good knowledge. Good heart and good head. Basically that's what he is saying. Because if you have a good head, you cannot be pulled easily by people. You cannot be easily cheated, exploited by people. If you have the wisdom, if you have the knowledge, you cannot be cheated by people. If you had only heart and no head, you can be cheated, you can be exploited. So that's why in Buddhism we talk about having the importance of having both the heart and the head. So that's the main subject that we are talking here in these 7 points of mind training. Then the rest of the preliminary and supporting practices, commitments and things like that. Clear? So if you understood this well, this workshop is successful. It's really important. We have this habit of glossing over so many things and not being able to retain anything in the mind. That's why I'm repeatedly talking about these things. So again, therefore here says the way to transform the misfortune into the path is through thinking and through action. Through thinking means thinking or cultivating the two minds, conventional bodhicitta, ultimate bodhicitta. Now you know. See? Now you know, so you feel so comfortable, you see? And you also know the reason why you need to cultivate these two minds. So therefore, as we have already said, that you need to cultivate this, when you cultivate this bodhicitta, you need to know, as we already read, banish the one to blame for everything. That means all the blame, all the troubleshooter, all the troubles that we have, the source of that is the self-cherishing attitude. So blame everything for one. That is the self-cherishing attitude. And Shantideva's Bodhisattva says that all the harms that you see in this world today, all the fears and sufferings that you see in the world today, all this arose from this great ghost of self-cherishing attitude. Great ghost of self-cherishing attitude. So what is the use of keeping this ghost in your mind? Even though these two, the self-cherishing attitude and self-grasping, they are our sworn enemy, but until now, you know where they are living? They are living in the headquarters of your mind. Headquarters, I am saying. They already captured the capital city. Self-cherishing attitude and self-grasping, they are in the headquarters of your mind. Not only they are in the headquarters of your mind, but they are enjoying. They are relaxing. And they are manipulating us according to their whim. We are like puppets, they are playing with us. They are the generals, they are ordering, as is happening in a dictatorial country. And we are helplessly following the dictates of the self-cherishing attitude and self-grasping attitude. Now you can see for yourself how you can be happy when these devils have seized your headquarters. So now what are you going to do through this Dharma practice? You are going to overthrow the self-cherishing attitude and self-grasping attitude and replace them by the two bodhicittas. Clear? So what you are saying is, now you are saying, the time you destroyed me is a past time, when I had no knowledge of your destructive nature. Now because of this study of the 7-point mind training or whatever, now I know who you are. So I am going to throw you out. I am going to dethrone you. You need to be tough with this, guys. I am going to dethrone you. That is the most important Dharma practice you can ever do in the whole universe. There cannot be a spiritual practice more profound than this one, at least from the Buddhist perspective. And that is the heart of the Buddhist practice. And these two minds, conventional bodhicitta and ultimate bodhicitta, they are the two wings of the bird, like the two wings of the bird. With these two, then you can fly to the state of enlightenment. Okay? So, our only job is to see this self-cherishing attitude and self-grasping attitude as our sworn enemy, because there is no such self having independent existence, but the ignorant mind thought there is a mind there is a self which exists independently, which in turn produced the self-cherishing mind. And because of this, what did we get? We got entrapped in the cycle of existence from beginningless time in the samsara. And we are recycled over and over, not being able to come out of it. And as a result, not only we encountered so much suffering, but because of this negative minds, we developed many other negative emotions. Like, for example, when you see somebody who is higher than you develop jealousy. When you see somebody higher than you develop jealousy. When you see somebody lower than you bully them. When you see somebody equal to you develop competitiveness. That's how we live in the society, because we are dictated by these two very destructive minds. And it is because of this we are unable to get freedom from the samsara, and we are also harmed by other human beings and non-human beings. Primarily because we have these two things. And many people are being harmed by ghosts and things like that But the real ghost is here. The real devil is inside. See? So if you get rid of this devil, which is there within yourself, the so-called external devils and ghosts will disappear by itself. Because these are all manifestations of your reflection, your thinking, your mind. So therefore you should now remember all the harms that these two minds have done, self-cherishing attitude and self-grasping mind. So therefore do not get obsessed with your purposes alone, but rather replace it with a mind which cherishes the well-being of other sentient beings. And there are many reasons for that. And ensure that not only you give up developing self-cherishing attitude during the workshop, but also for the subsequent times. You make it a promise that may I be able to put an end to self-cherishing attitude and self-grasping mind, not only during the workshop, but for the rest of my life, and for many lives to come. That has to be your commitment. That has to be your commitment. And in order to develop more convincing understanding, you should spend time and do some research on this, whether it really makes sense or not. Okay? Because it's very difficult for us to accept other people saying, because we are already conditioned. So you need to do more thinking whether this teaching makes sense or not. If it doesn't make sense, you have every right to just forget it. But you must do some research whether which one is better, to think more about others or to think just about oneself. Which one is better, to have more wisdom that understands the way things are, or to be ignorant and confused? Which one is better? What is the end result of each of these experiences? You can do more research and find things for yourself. And if you are able to do that, then that will help you develop more conviction. If you have more conviction, that will energize you to do more practice. So just as when we go to the battlefield, we need to have some bravery, some energy to fight the enemy. So similarly, in this kind of practice also, there must be some energy. You say, yes, I'll do the bodhicitta practice. The teaching was very nice. Because, and that wish to do the practice very forcefully will come only when you develop that understanding and appreciation and the usefulness of this teaching. Then naturally the energy will come. If you don't have that appreciation, then if you have just like lukewarm feeling, neither hot nor cold, then it will not be very effective. And then, like as we emphasized about developing the two bodhicittas, as we have already read earlier, meditate on the great kindness of all sentient beings. Because all sentient beings, why should we care so much about other sentient beings? Because they have been so kind for us from beginningless time. They have acted as our mother, father and so forth, as I said already. Then even in this life, how much benefit we get from other people. And I myself, I have traveled over, I'm sure I have traveled over 40 countries. And some of the countries repeatedly, like 10, 15, 20 times, you see. So what I've seen is, although my visit to every country is almost like between the hotels and the sleeping room and the conference hall, but what I've seen is ordinary people are generally very good natured. They may not be very rich, but they are ready to share. They are ready to help. So ordinary people are, I think, basically very good natured. They want to have a successful family, not so much beyond that. But who is creating all these problems? Some of the stupid leaders, things like that. So anyway, so what I'm saying is, they are all kind, you see. Okay? So remember this kindness. And not only remember this kindness, but think about how to repay their kindness. And ordinarily, we talk so much about the greatness of Buddha, and we develop so much respect. We place his image on a altar and things like that. But in the Buddhist teaching says, the Buddhas and sentient beings are equally kind to you. Even when we talk about cultivating compassion and love, how can you cultivate compassion and love if sentient beings are not there? How can you cultivate all these great qualities? You cannot develop compassion with a rock or loving kindness with a tree. You can cultivate this with sentient beings. So therefore sentient beings are very kind. And then in our day-to-day life, our very survival is very much dependent upon the kindness of other sentient beings. Even the earthworms are used to produce fertile soils, In America and many places there are earthworm farms, So remember their kindness. So in terms of their kindness, in terms of quality, they may be not so equal to Buddha, but in terms of kindness, they are equal to the Buddhas. So therefore it's important to develop very strong loving kindness and compassion and towards these suffering sentient beings, suffering mother sentient beings, and therefore offer your love, compassion and so forth towards these mother sentient beings. And especially in the case of those sentient beings who are harming you, human beings or non-human beings. Focusing on this, you should think that they may be harming us today, but in the past lives they have also been very kind to me. They have acted as my mother sentient beings. And also sometimes it's because of the harm done by some people that you got an opportunity to grow, to get more experience. Like for example, one of the important practice in Buddhism is practice of patience. Practice of patience you can do with those who are harming you, not with Buddha, or not with your friends and relatives who have been very kind to you. You cannot practice patience with them. You practice patience with those who are harming you, who are creating suffering upon you. So because of their harm, their wrongdoings with you, in a way it's bad, but in a way you got this opportunity to learn many things, to develop patience. Okay? As I said earlier, suffering is introduction to happiness. Okay? So therefore, from that perspective, they are also very kind. And because they have harmed you, you experience suffering. Because you experience suffering, you are able to know what it means to suffer, and you are able to know how to put an end to suffering and how to put an end to the causes of suffering. So therefore, these harms are like, those who harm you are like your spiritual teachers. So that's how you look at different things and get the best out of it. Then look at the benefit that we get other sentient beings. We enslave sentient beings. We use their wools, we use their skins, we eat their meat. And in some places even they do animal sacrifices. Few years back in Nepal, I heard that I think almost every year, at one point of the time, they kill countless, more than 100,000 animals of all kinds are killed within the space of few days, thinking that this will please the God, whatever, Ignorance. So we are playing with the life of all these other sentient beings. So therefore now you should think, this is my time to repay their kindness. And then through meditation on the ultimate bodhicitta, you should transform the misfortunes into the path. So the root text says, reflect immediately at every opportunity the supreme method is accompanied by the four. No, this is very funny. Okay, it doesn't match with this text. So in this Tibetan text it talks about seeing your mistaken states into the four kayas and getting this protection on the meditation on emptiness is the supreme protection. I don't see that.
It says in the last
Last paragraph?
in the third paragraph, the last sentence. Four practices. The supreme method is confined to the four practices.
Where is it?
Number 3.
Number 3, the last sentence.
No, not that one. I don't think that one. Because this root text says, seeing your mistaken appearances into the four kayas, and that's the best protection of your meditation on emptiness. So anyway, I'll briefly explain this. That means, basically it is saying, whether you develop afflictive emotion or whether you experience any sufferings in relation to environmental degradation or harms done by other sentient beings, you should be able to see that all these afflictive emotions and all these sufferings arise because of my mistaken state of mind. By my mistaken state of mind, as I said earlier, due to misperception. So therefore, the one thing that you need to do here is, you need to develop this conviction that there is nothing that has independent existence. All things appear to you as having independent existence. This is misperception. This is misperception. And because of this misperception, afflictive emotions arise. As I said earlier, ignorance is the root cause of all the afflictive emotions. Okay? Likewise, all the sufferings arise from this ignorance, misperception. So this being the case, if you stop this misperception, if you stop this ignorance, and if you're able to see everything as having dependent existence, then you will be able to actualize the four bodies of the Buddha. That's the meaning. If everything has independent existence, then it is impossible for you to actualize Buddhahood. It's impossible for you to actualize the four bodies of the Buddha. But instead, if you are able to see everything as having interdependent existence, then by depending on causes and conditions, by practicing bodhicitta, by practicing wisdom, understanding emptiness, gradually you will travel through the 5 paths and the 10 spiritual grounds, and then become Buddha. And then you actualize the Dharmakaya, which is the leg of inherent existence of your mind. The nature, your ultimate nature of your mind is that it does not have independent existence. So that leg of independent existence of the mind is called Dharmakaya. Okay? And then from that state you are also able to, and then that mind itself is the wisdom body of the Buddha. Okay? And then you are also able to arise into the form of enjoyment body of the Buddha, where you are able to, where the bodhisattvas are able to directly receive teachings from him, not ordinary people. And then you can also arise into the form of emanation body of the Buddha, the Nirmankaya, where even ordinary people can have access and get teachings from the Buddha. Okay, so that is the meaning of how to stop this misperception, ignorance, and then how you can actualize the four bodies of the Buddha. And then next it talks about how to transform misfortunes into the path through the special practice of accumulating merit and purifying the negativities. So if you want to have successful Buddhist practice, you need to do two things. One, you need to improve and increase the store of your accumulation of merit. Because if you are not a lucky guy, sometimes we call it lucky guy, meaning somebody who has luck, who has merit. Somebody who has luck, who has merit, whatever he or she does, he's always successful, Easily gets a job, easily gets a house, whatever, successful. There are some people who try very hard but they don't achieve success. At least according to Buddhist teaching, we say that because that guy doesn't have much merit, much luck. So you can increase that store of merit, of luck. Okay, so that is through rigorous practice, development of compassion, loving kindness, and so forth. You can increase your luck. You increase your merit. Okay. And then likewise, it's not enough to increase the positive practices, but at the same time you should also decrease the negative emotions which are obstructive. Whether it's anger or jealousy or hatred, you try to reduce that. So that's what is explained in the next line, which says the supreme method is accompanied by the four practices. So that is what it is now talking about. The supreme method is accompanied by the four practices. The four practices, the first practice is called accumulating merit. First practice is accumulating merit. That means if you experience suffering, then instead of getting discouraged, you should think, normally when you get suffering, you think, oh, how nice if I am without this suffering. Okay? How nice if I am without this pain. That's how we react, how we wish. But then, when you experience suffering, what is being told by that experience of suffering is that if you do not want suffering, and if you want peace and happiness, then you need to accumulate merit, which is the cause for peace and happiness. So this is a reminder. Because when you experience suffering, you are saying, I don't want this. So that experience, that suffering itself is a reminder saying that if you don't want this suffering, you need to change your way of life. You need to accumulate more merit to get more happiness and peace. Okay? So this is a reminder. So therefore, as a way of accumulating merit, you can make offerings to the three jewels, Buddha, Dharma and Sangha, or to the Sanghas, or making offerings to those who are in need. So verbally, physically, mentally, you engage in virtuous practices. Taking refuge to Buddha, Dharma and Sangha, cultivating bodhicitta, making mandala offerings to the Lama or the Buddha, Dharma and Sangha. And then through this you should say, pray to the Buddha, Dharma and Sangha, saying that if it is good for me to get sick, let me be sick. If it is good for me to revive, get well, let me get well. If it's good for me to die, let me die. You see? So your mind is prepared. So that is called a state of mind where whatever happens, you are happy. You see? It's not saying that, oh, it's time for me to die, so I stop eating. Not like that. No. We are not saying that. Of course, you try your best to live, but if it is your time to go, so what? It's time to go. You see? Like that, you see? Because sooner or later you have to go. So, what you are really doing is reducing unnecessary expectations and unnecessary doubts. Our life is infested with unnecessary expectations, unnecessary doubts. Our life is ridden with unnecessary expectation, doubts. which invites a lot of problem. Even when somebody is not doing anything or has not done anything,